Welcome and thank you for joining us for this virtual meeting for the General Hospital and West Campus Feasibility Study. We will begin promptly at 4:05. Our meeting this evening will be in English and translated into Spanish. Also, the questions asked in Spanish will as well be translated into English. So please, if at this time you can select your language of choice, either English or Spanish, by clicking on the globe interpretation icon down below in the toolbar. As we wait to get started, we'd like to know who's joining us. So please type the name of your organization or the community you represent in the chat, as well as your name, of course, and any questions you'd like to share with us during the conversation today. I'll ask Juliana to read this message and share this with our guest, please.
Bienvenidos y gracias por asistir a nuestra reunión comunitaria virtual para el estudio de factibilidad del Hospital General y el Campus Oeste. Nuestra reunión comenzará puntualmente a las 4:05 p.m. La reunión será en inglés y traducida al español. Además, las preguntas en español serán traducidas al inglés. Así que, por favor, seleccione su idioma de preferencia, ya sea inglés o español, haciendo clic en el globo terráqueo o en el icono de interpretación ubicado en la barra de herramientas. Mientras esperamos para comenzar, nos gustaría saber quién se unirá a nosotros, así que los invitamos a escribir el nombre de su organización o la comunidad a la que representa en el chat y cualquier pregunta que quiera asegurarse que cubramos hoy.
Thank you, Juliana. Now we'll just give it a minute. So we'll begin at 4:05. Thank you. So welcome, and thank you again for joining us for this meeting for the General Hospital and West Campus Feasibility Study. This is very important. As I mentioned, our meeting will be in English and translated into Spanish. Also, the questions asked in Spanish will be translated into English. To fully participate in our conversation, we request all attendees to please select the language of your choice. I can't emphasize this enough, it's very important, thank you. English or Spanish by clicking on the globe or interpretation icon in the toolbar. If you're calling in by phone, please, interpretation is not available, so you'll want to go onto Zoom if you're able. For tonight's meeting, it will be pre-recorded and posted to the project website in English and Spanish for later viewing. The website link will be entered into the chat for your convenience. I'll repeat, if you are calling in by phone and you want to raise your hand, please dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself. So thank you very much. I'll ask Juliana if you can please share this message with our guests in Spanish, and then we'll get started.
Buenas tardes y bienvenidos nuevamente. Como dijimos antes, nuestra reunión será en inglés y traducida al español. Además, las preguntas hechas en español serán traducidas al inglés. Para participar plenamente en nuestra conversación, le pedimos a todos los participantes que por favor seleccionen su idioma de preferencia, ya sea inglés o español, haciendo clic en el globo terráqueo o en el icono de interpretación ubicado en la barra de herramientas. Si llama por teléfono, la interpretación no estará disponible, así que le sugerimos que inicie sesión en Zoom si es posible. La reunión de esta noche se va a grabar y se va a publicar en el sitio web del proyecto tanto en inglés como en español para que luego puedan verla, y el enlace del sitio web será ingresado en el chat para su conveniencia. Repetimos, si llama por teléfono, la interpretación no estará disponible, por lo que es mejor si puede iniciar sesión en Zoom. Si está en el teléfono y quiere hacer una pregunta, toque *9 para levantar la mano, y cuando lo llamen, presione *6 para habilitar el micrófono. Gracias.
Thank you, Juliana. Welcome, everyone. We're ready to get started. So now let's review how to use some of the Zoom tools you might need later on during the meeting. Please use the chat box to get help with Zoom at any point in the meeting. This is the box typically at the bottom of your screen in the toolbar. We are here for your feedback, so please feel free at any time throughout the meeting to type a comment or question to the Q&A box located in the toolbar. If you're calling, again, I really appreciate all of those who are able to. Please, if you are calling in and not viewing on a screen, you will need to dial *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute yourself to be able to participate. So thank you. A final note, thank you all for your participation and your attendance. We want this meeting to be engaging and to answer all of your questions, and ask that we all want this to maintain a respectful tone throughout the conversation. So thank you. And now, to kick off our meeting, I'd like to introduce our project team lead, Kelly Quinn of the Los Angeles County Chief Executive Office. Kelly?
Thank you, Alex. Good evening and welcome, everyone. I am delighted to be with you for this next meeting on the status of the General Hospital Feasibility Study. I am the manager of the Master Planning Division in the county's Chief Executive Office. That means I'm responsible for delivering the General Hospital Feasibility Study to the Board of Supervisors. With me tonight are members of the Feasibility Study team. AECOM is our technical team lead consultant. They are supported by a community engagement team led by the LAC-USC Foundation and including Barrio Planners and Catherine Padilla and Associates. I also want to recognize the valuable contributions of Ivan Matthews, our county CEO lead on this project, and Kathleen Kopis of my team, who is working with Ivan to help us all meet the aggressive schedule Supervisor Solis established for completing the study in April. Thank you also to Supervisor Solis's team for your partnership on the feasibility study and the collaboration all along this journey. But most of all, I want to thank you, members of the community, for joining us tonight. For those of you who attended one of the 3 community at large meetings we hosted in 2019, we are so glad to have you reconnected with you during this process by joining us this evening. For those of you who are new to this process, a very warm welcome to the table. During the meeting today, we'll orient you on where we are on the study, and then we'll come back to you in April to provide a summary of the study's findings. With that, I'd like to ask Rosa Soto, Executive Director of the LAC-USC Medical Center Foundation and the Wellness Center, to walk through our agenda and introduce several opening remarks. Rosa?
Thank you, Kelly. Good evening, everyone. As Kelly said, I'm Rosa Soto with LAC-USC Medical Center Foundation and the Wellness Center. I am thrilled to be part of the community engagement team that is working on the study to ensure that we have robust community voices as part of our study process. I also want to thank our partners in this effort, those from AECOM, those from Barrio Planners, and Catherine Padilla and Associates. I specifically and especially want to thank our Community Engagement Steering Committee for your laborious hours and commitment to ensuring that this process is as accessible even in this difficult time of our pandemic. Let's begin with a review of what we will be covering in today's meeting. Today's meeting will provide an orientation overview of our study, direction and goals, the community engagement and technical analysis to date, and next steps. We will pause to ensure questions and answers about the study, and then we will have a panel of several county departments and community leaders to talk about the different projects on our horizon that are particularly important for our community and how they are addressing the critical community needs that have been lifted through our community engagement process. But to start, we will first hear from Supervisor Hilda Solis on her vision for the study. The supervisor has re-engaged this team early this year, ensuring that we understood the more urgent needs of the study and of the times. So with that, if you can help me bring up Supervisor Solis's comments. She was unable to be with us in person, but has prepared a video.
Thank you so much, Rosa.
Good afternoon, buenas tardes. I want to personally appreciate everyone who has been involved in delivering a robust community engagement and feedback process for the feasibility study on the reuse of the General Hospital and West Campus at LAC-USC. And a special thank you to the many members of the General Hospital Community Engagement Steering Committee, the Health Innovation Community Partnership, and the project team members for their leadership and guidance. Just as important, I want to personally thank all of you joining us this afternoon and to all those who have participated in our ongoing community engagement efforts to this date. I can't emphasize enough how important everyone's feedback is in delivering the Healthy Village vision at the LAC-USC campus for this regionally significant site. And as we move forward with reimagining this iconic facility in the heart of our community, I want to express my deep appreciation for the support of Governor Gavin Newsom, Assemblymember Wendy Carrillo, and Senator Maria Elena Durazo. This is a huge undertaking that would not be possible without the committed leadership to invest in this campus and community. I know it's been a while before the COVID-19 pandemic started since our last at-large community meeting. However, we have come a long way. The campus has already begun to transform with $100 million plus investments into many infrastructure projects. Soon we will have 160 new health beds along Sonal Avenue, which not only created local construction jobs, but also engaged our local community artists. I'm particularly proud of their work and look forward to formally opening of these 5 new buildings early this year. We also have a new child care center underway, which is going to be completed in 2022. The former Women's and Children's Hospital site demolition is now complete and paving the way for new healthcare facilities. The county also issued the RFP for 300 plus new affordable units with the goal of 1/3 of these units for extremely low income or homeless individuals and families at the triangular property kitty corner from the former Women's and Children's Hospital site. All of this is a tremendous accomplishment, which could not have been done without community support. Many of you helped with that effort through your participation in the Healthy Innovative Community Partnership and the Community Engagement Steering Committee. These community and resident leaders have been invaluable in helping shape the study vision and moving these projects forward. Over the course of the General Hospital Reuse Feasibility Study, I have been hearing about community interests and priorities, many of which have been exacerbated through the pandemic. We have seen the struggles of our unhoused neighbors, our frontline workforce, our families, and our children. And as we reimagine the healthcare campus of the future, we know we need to create a system that addresses the intersection of needs of our most vulnerable: housing, jobs, health, mental health, and addiction. My vision for LAC-USC is that of a healthy village, which includes wraparound care and services for those in need, integration with the surrounding community, and a sustainable mix of uses, populations, and amenities. And to that, I have directed the General Hospital Reuse Study Team to develop a reuse framework that is responsive to the most urgent needs of our community and the campus, taking into account the financial and technical realities of the site. My firm commitment is that we explore the opportunity to develop as much affordable housing as possible across General Hospital and West Campus. And I'm also committed to clean, sustainable development that addresses our growing climate crisis and delivers on environmental justice and equity concerns of our community. The results will be a strong and vibrant campus that reflects the identity and values of the community and provides opportunities for residents, patients, and local workforce. Time is of the essence. It's very important that we accelerate the study timeline to make up for the lost time due to the pandemic and to take advantage of funding streams that have become available this year. Rehabilitating and modernizing General Hospital will be difficult, and we want to return this iconic county asset to service. There exists a unique opportunity to use this project to address our housing crisis and to serve as a cornerstone of our resilient, diverse, prosperous communities in the East and Northeast LA and Chinatown. It is also critical to create a plan that works, a plan that is viable as seen by the county and community and maximizes funding opportunities. We can be responsive to our community and attract developers that are responsive and responsible and want to be good community partners. We'll be successful if we have multiple qualified developers who want to help us realize this vision. What we build here would be a national model for utilizing public-private partnership to uplift and assist our most marginalized and vulnerable residents. And we're committed to ensuring that community involvement and feedback will continue as we move into the RFP and future phases of the project. As exciting as this project is, we know that the intense needs of our community due to decades of underinvestment will never be solved by any one project. But we have invited several of our county agencies here today to share valuable updates on other county projects and developments that are helping to transform our communities and address our most urgent priorities. I want to thank you again for joining us this afternoon and for your support and continued participation. I know we are all excited to move forward and to realize the vision for a healthy village. And with your help and support, I know the best is yet to come for our wonderful General Hospital and LAC USC campus.
We want to thank Supervisor Solis for her comments and for her commitment and the Board of Supervisors' commitment to bringing back to life this incredible iconic building and West Campus. We are now going to hear from Senator Maria Elena Durazo and Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo. Can we bring up the video, please?
Good evening. I am Senator Maria Elena Durazo, and I am so happy to support this incredible project that will help inform the development on and around the LAC USC Medical Center campus. The feasibility study has brought to light old, but also new challenges, but more importantly, opportunities. How we envision a new healthcare campus and a healthy village, a village that will serve patients, healthcare workers, and community residents alike. I join very proudly with Supervisor Solis in welcoming everyone attending tonight. I regret that we cannot safely meet face-to-face. However, I am glad we have this platform so that we can listen to your questions, get your feedback, all on the needs of our community. I am heartened to learn about the robust community engagement that's taken place so far. I support our efforts to continue to work together on how to improve health and community services across all of our neighborhoods. I'm committed to join with others to find the funding. We need the funding. And I understand the responsibility that this medical campus, it's a flagship medical campus, has a responsibility not only for the immediate area, but for the entire LA region and frankly, the entire state of California. I love how community input has led to incorporating art that reflects our community's beliefs and our culture, as well as creating a jobs pipeline for local hire. Together, we are going to reuse the iconic and historic General Hospital building and the underused portions of the West Campus to help support a regional solution to all the issues facing our community, including affordable housing, health and wellness, living wage jobs, and addressing health equity. I look forward to my continuing collaboration with Supervisor Solis and the many, many people and the invested stakeholders in making sure this project gets all the way to the end. Y no se olvide que sí se puede. Gracias.
Good evening. I am Assemblywoman Wendy Carrillo, and I am so delighted to support this incredible project that will help inform the future development around LA County USC Medical Center. The General Hospital and West Campus feasibility study has brought to light old and new challenges and opportunities as we envision a new healthcare campus and a healthy village that serves patients, healthcare workers, and community residents alike. I join Supervisor Solis in welcoming everyone tonight and regret that we cannot safely meet face-to-face due to the COVID-19 challenges. And also, I'm in Sacramento. This is our new office. I have empty walls and empty bookshelves as we move into this new space. But I really do wish that we have an opportunity sometime in the near future to do this in person. And I'm glad, however, that we have at least this medium for us to be able to listen intentionally to your questions and your feedback and learn more about how we may continue to address the needs in our very own community. I actually grew up in Boyle Heights, just a few blocks away from what we are trying to do at the LA County USC Medical Center, and I live in El Sereno. So this is actually very important to me as I actually live and work and represent this community. And I am heartened to learn about the robust community engagement and process that is part of the study's direction from Supervisor Solis. I support our continued efforts working together to identify opportunities for local residents, workforce, and students to provide ideas for how to improve health and community services across the neighborhoods that we serve. I am committed to finding state and federal funding and other financial resources to help fund this once in a lifetime opportunity, especially because I personally know firsthand the responsibility that this flagship medical campus carries in community health for the state of California and, most importantly, for our very own region and our neighborhoods in the city of Los Angeles. I applaud how the current set of campus projects is leveraging community input to improve design, service, and program elements such as incorporating civic art that reflects the community's values, beliefs, and culture as we are creating a jobs pipeline for employing targeted and local hire workers throughout the project phases. It is my sincere hope that together we can realize the reuse of the iconic and historic General Hospital building and underused portions of the West Campus to help support a regional solution to the many challenges facing our community, including affordable housing, health and wellness, living wage jobs, and addressing health equity concerns raised throughout the COVID pandemic. I am deeply committed to exploring the potential that this study and subsequent developments represent and look forward to our continued collaboration and partnership with Supervisor Solis and the many invested stakeholders in seeing this project through fruition. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you for lending your voice and your thoughts and your ideas to this process. We are a community, and it is only together that we are able to move forward and ensure that this incredible opportunity becomes not only just an idea, but something that we can see in our lifetime become a reality. You are important, your voice matters, and we want to hear from you. So thank you again for your participation, and I look forward to the continued conversation. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Again, we want to thank Senator Hilda Solis. Supervisor Hilda Solis, Senator Maria Elena Durazo, and Assemblymember Wendy Carrillo for their opening comments. I now want to pivot to the beginning of our presentations and bring an incredible leader of mine here on campus. We would be lost without him. Jorge Orozco is the CEO of LACUSC Medical Center. And he has spent many hours of his time committed to community engagement processes, not only through the General Hospital Feasibility Study, but also through our Health Innovation Community Partnership and other engagement efforts in the community. We thank you, Jorge, for always being present and part of these incredible efforts. So, Jorge.
Thank you, Rosa. First off, I just want to say thank you all for taking your time to contribute to this incredibly important project. One thing I learned very early in healthcare is that this medical center, this campus, does not belong to us. It belongs to all of you. It belongs to the community. And this project to repurpose the old historic General Hospital and look at our West Campus is so important, because over the last couple of years, it just became so clear that health equity within our communities is a huge issue. And anything that we can do to help solve the issues of making sure our community stays healthy. I'm a hospital CEO. We're talking about building housing on our campus. But we fully support that, because we know that if you don't have stable housing, if you don't have important services, mental health services, substance use services, if you don't have access to those, you will not remain healthy, regardless what we do in the hospital. So this is an important part of our vision for the medical center, and we fully support Supervisor Solis's vision of this thriving, healthy community hub here in the heart of our campus. I grew up in the shadow of General Hospital and have started my career in healthcare as a volunteer here at age 17. But it really is an honor to be the CEO of such an incredible institution. And I am passionate about what's going to happen here. And I encourage you to continue to be a strong voice to help shape the future of this campus, because this is your campus. And I want to thank you again for joining us, and I'll turn it back over to Rosa.
Thank you, Jorge. It is an honor to be in partnership with you and our community and our hospital to ensure the health and well-being of everyone. And as you described, it is difficult to focus on your health when your most primal needs are not being met. So the comprehensive approach that we are taking in addressing the reuse of General Hospital West Campus is ever more important today. The vision and direction for the study was to bring this iconic county asset back to life and address the county's tremendous need for housing. It was also to promote a healthy and resilient and economically prosperous community in East Los Angeles as a housing and mixed-use campus. It's also to provide complementary services to the medical center, to the wellness center, and to the restorative care village that will soon open. Finally, the vision and direction to help the most vulnerable of our populations through recuperative care, wraparound services, and resident empowerment. So it's with this firm commitment that we have worked for the past several years to ensure that our technical team takes into account all of the needs of our community through every meeting and voice opportunity. And lastly, before I turn it back over to Alex, I want to invite everyone to the Health Innovation Community Partnership. It is a community-based meeting that happens every Friday of the month at 8:45. We will share information on this later in the process or following the meeting. But it is an ongoing conversation, and we thank you all for being with us today. I will now hand it over to Alex to begin the portion of our presentation. Alex?
Thank you, Rosa. So that we're familiar with the study site, let's take a look at this aerial map of the campus to familiarize ourselves. The study is focused on two areas. There is the General Hospital historic structure and the West Campus. The General Hospital is the massive structure, consists of 19 floors and totals 1.2 million square feet of space. So it's rather large, most of which is currently vacant and need of repair. Major renovations will definitely be needed to make this building ready for use. The other portion is the LAC USC West Campus, which is a portion of the campus west of State Street and bordered by Zonal, Mission, and Marengo. On the portion of the campus, there are 3 parcels of land that are currently considered for development, which makes up about 10.5 acres for the total project campus. Okay, now that we've become a little bit more familiar with the campus, let's take a look at this timeline to help us understand how we've gotten where we are in the process today. So many of, as you may know, the iconic General Hospital was built in the 1920s and 30s and opened its doors to the community in 1933. It was damaged by the 94 Northridge earthquake and eventually deemed unsound for medical use. In 2008, the LAC USC Medical Center opened services to the historic, services, and the historic General Hospital was closed to clinical services, but some areas still remained. In 2013, a new vision for the General Hospital's historic structure was put in use with the creation of the Wellness Center to provide free services to the community as it stands today. In 2018, Supervisor Solis authored a board motion for this feasibility study to begin to explore the possible future of this historic structure that we're examining today. 2019, this study began an analysis of the technical needs of the site and with outreach and to the community to understand the needs and wants of the community. But unfortunately, in 2020, as we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic hit and our work slowed. Then in late 2021, we restarted the study, and now we are on track now to complete the study under an accelerated timeline and deliver our final report to the Board of Supervisors by April of this year, which will then be followed by the RFP process, the request for proposal. So now that we have an idea of the campus itself and of our timeline of how we've come here, I'd like to briefly share with you what a feasibility study is. A feasibility study is a process that happens before any construction work begins to explore the potential for developing a property. A study gathers and examines the vital information, community needs, assesses the existing site and land conditions, and identifies potential funding sources to create what is this framework to describe the possible uses for that site. So coming to an understanding exactly of what we all have to work with in its examination. After the study is complete, a report is then generated and delivered to the Board of Supervisors, who then determine the next steps of the report, which will be incorporated into the request for proposal, also known as an RFP, to begin the process of development of the project. Mind you, all the while ensuring the delivery of a project that seeks to meet the needs of the community throughout. So in meeting these needs, we've had a great deal of help. So to effectively understand the community needs, as a successful feasibility study needs to thoroughly examine community and maintain communication with the community. To help guide these efforts, our firm, Barrio Planners, and our colleagues at the foundation, as well as AECOM and the county of Los Angeles, have formed a community engagement steering committee listed here on screen. This is composed of more than 20 representatives of local community leaders to ensure that we're bringing community vision and perspective to our study and work throughout. Our committee consists of representatives from a variety of perspectives, legal services, community development groups, education, the faith community, homeless services, workforce development, and health services as well. Our steering committee participation has been vital to the process. So without them, we wouldn't have gotten as far in understanding the needs of the community and how to best serve them throughout our process. To talk a little bit about the study's community engagements efforts, tonight we are joined with two of the founding members of our steering committee, Monica Alcaraz and Ari Gutierrez Arambula, and hope they can join us. Monica, will you please join us and share some of these efforts that we've participated in the community engagement process? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Monica Alcaraz, and I've been part of the process since even before the HICP came to be, because supervisor's office had approached and said that they were going to start this committee. So we've had a lot of meetings and gathered a lot of people even before this feasibility started. So we had meetings with the community over several months before, and it's been it's been several months, at least 6 meetings that was looking at what did the community need and what the community wanted. A lot of the projects that you are seeing or have seen or are going to see are from these engagements that we've had. We've had 3 specific meetings related to the community engagement for the feasibility study and how to shape the campus. We've had over 400 people participate and attend. And, you know, for me, participation from the community is really important because we want to make sure that what we are building is for the community that is living there, right? We want to make sure that we have services that are for that community and that it's serving that community. I've lived and I've been part of this community all my life. I was born at General Hospital. I had my son at General Hospital. My mom, when she was sick, would go to General Hospital. And I think that this is a place that we really care about and we can trust. So I think it's very important for the community to understand that this process didn't just happen today, didn't happen a couple of months, didn't even happen a year. We've been at this for more than 5 years and going out into the community and reaching out and asking for everybody to participate. So for me, community engagement is the most important thing because I don't want somebody to come to my community and tell me, this is what we're gonna build. No, they should come into our community and ask us, what is it that we need? And this is exactly what they are doing. And I really wanna thank Supervisor Solis because, you know, we've been seeing this building empty for so many years and we've asked, we need housing, we need this, we need that. And she stepped up and said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. And she asked for the feasibility study to happen. And she said, okay, I'm doing this, help me get the word out and get as much as community engagement as possible. So again, thank you guys for participating and please join us for our HICP meetings. They happen every month and just continue to be engaged. Thank you. Oh, also, we have some quotes like we were talking about. We have quotes and we have, you know, part of the community engagement, you know, people say thank you for your concerted effort and to install new life and objective to the General Hospital and make it relevant to LA for the future. I'm a local business owner in Boyle Heights. I support a balance of economic development and social justice. Without balance, our local businesses will not survive economically and be able to provide jobs, right? So we really want that. We want people in the community to work where they live, right? I believe continual programming opportunities such as dance, art, sports, support groups, etc., such as the ones already happening at the Wellness Center are critical and to community empowerment. So that's really important, right? Providing the community what it needs. I think we're gonna go to Ari now.
Thank you so much, Monica.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Ari Gutierrez Aramula. I'm co-founder of the Latino Equality Alliance, which is based in Royal Heights. That's how I got involved with this community outreach, but then also, with the health, the HICP, the Health Innovation Community Partnership, the idea of having government and community organizations work together to inform the work. That's part of what we're learning today. But what I wanted to share with you was my experience and involvement in being able to solicit from community members in a way that was easy for them to express and for them to be creative about what could be at General Hospital. So one of the exercises that we did was this visioning map. And again, as Alex mentioned earlier, there's really the whole gigantic General Hospital building itself, but then there's also the West Campus, which is the side that faces, where the coroner's office is. So there's a lot of buildings around that can be reused in a way that helps our community. And also because I saw one of the questions that the viewers asked was, well, who lives there now? Well, nobody lives there now because it is empty. And we asked the community, what would you like to see how at this space and how could we use it? I know it's hard to see, but, grocery store was always one that came up. Housing is huge. I think if you can go to the next slide, Alex, it shows us what the responses were. And of course, this is just the responses from people who were in the rooms at those times. And if we asked more people, we may get more suggestions. But I think this definitely shows kind of what the priorities are. And affordable rental housing, they could never sell housing at General Hospital because it's a public government building, but it could be affordable housing. It could also be, and then of course, what comes with that? The supervisor mentioned wraparound services. We already have the wellness center. There's also going to be other facilities next to it. But what else does the community need to help support the people who might live there, the people who work in the area, in the facilities? Do we need meeting rooms? Do we need a senior center? Do we need more childcare? How can we help businesses, local businesses, thrive in this space? How can we connect to the community itself? So, and as a reminder as well that if we could go to the next slide, that this project is not just what will be in the future, but because the General Hospital has so much work that needs to be done in order to make it livable, in order to make it safe and usable for the people. It used to be a hospital, and I was lucky enough to be able to do a walkthrough. And, there's the old patient rooms and the different layout that's there now. So all that needs to be upgraded, and somebody's got to do that. So we want it to be local jobs to do that work. We want the design to be intentional for serving our community. We know we're going to need transportation around this project. We want cultural elements to it. So there's so much that can be done with this space, but as I mentioned earlier, the biggest one that came back was to be able to use it, to adapt it for affordable housing for our lowest income neighbors, to be able to provide support services to special communities like the LGBT community, the trans community, the homeless community, immigrant community. There's a whole bunch of support services that these individuals need. And this is an amazing place where all of that could happen. So this is not just a building, it's a vision for our community of transformation, of adapting this amazing space to what could be in our community. I think that's it. Thank you all. Oh, I think I have one more. Go ahead. Next. Oh. No, I'll come back after this. Oh,
thank you very much, Monica and Ari. You've been amazing partners throughout this study, and can't thank you enough for your continued support. I would like now to share with you the study team. I would like to share with you how the study team has received the community feedback and how that input has influenced the study. So when we began, the study was focused on only examining the General Hospital historic building, but because of the community's great interest and shared needs, our team responded to what was realized to be a need for more, the accommodation of more space to meet community needs. So that's when the West Campus was added to the study footprint. Because of the great community interest in the study, our team increased the study timeline to allow for more time for community engagement and analysis of the input that we've received. In designing the reuse study framework based on community interest, the study team has increased the proposed square footages for community service spaces to accommodate the variety of services and number of users that the community helped identify. With the community help, the study is now responding to all of these interests and needs by quickly moving to complete the study so that we can move into the RFP process with an emphasis on the affordable housing as mentioned in the previous display. We learned through our community engagement process that our community is in dire need of affordable housing in a variety of the deepest levels of affordability. So now the study seeks to exceed the typical rate of affordable housing developments. Because of because of the shared input, I should say, the study now seeks to include a larger three-bedroom units to accommodate the diverse family sizes. The community input has also led us to realize that the typical income values in many cases don't work for our lowest income residents. So the study will bring in a greater range of affordable units that can serve our low and extremely low income neighbors. Rest assured, throughout this process, through the continuation of this process, we will continue these conversations about housing affordability in the community with you, the community, and continue to have community voices heard as we move into the next steps of the study. In addition to housing, a key interest from the community was in new services and support systems that LAC USC campus could provide to the community and visitors. To meet these needs, our team has recommended for more square footage to be dedicated to community services, assessing and responding to what are the highest value services that are of the highest value to the community. From our engagement efforts thus far, our team has determined that these services include healthy retail food options, affordable and convenient hotel services. This is for visitors of the hospital, the medical center itself, education and childcare, as well as an emphasis on campus mobility and connectivity to these new environments is very important. As well, open green spaces that would be public spaces on the campus, as well as the addition of commemorative and cultural spaces as well. In addition to, excuse me. We have also heard interest in economic opportunities of this new campus, job training, and support for local businesses. All of these are now included in the report itself. will be included as part of the study moving forward. Our team has also included goals for local and targeted hire. This is very important to our team and the community as well, which this would include hiring goals for local residents as well as people who are often experiencing barriers to employment. These jobs will include a broad range of opportunities, so it is varied for people of a variety of backgrounds. We are also examining how we may increase the job opportunities by offering added office spaces as well as spaces for supporting local businesses and new businesses alike. Finally, we are looking at job training programs and pipelines in the community to have a job training center on the campus itself, which is all very exciting. Finally, the community has identified their most important needs, and we're aware of these. But our community also, we are all aware, our community thrives on culture and tradition, and our team shares and understands these values and has integrated them into our study. So our study will describe the importance of the artistic and cultural values of the community that the community has shared, which will be reflected into the design of the buildings and the landscapes of the campus itself. So these include the design considerations of open green spaces as well as biking and walking trails. For this development to succeed, our team realizes that we have to build a health campus that both supports and integrates with the community, one that reflects the identity of the community it serves. So that harks back to together with you is the most important aspect of this process. The community's input and support. With your support, we can achieve well, the supervisor's vision of the healthy village. So with that, I'm going to invite my colleague Heather Hayes of the LAC USC Medical Center Foundation to talk about other considerations that we've taken for the study. Heather?
Yeah, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you also, Ari and Monica, for helping us explore the community feedback and what we've learned from the community response to date. Now I'll share with you some of the other considerations that we need to take into account as we build a feasibility study. The feasibility study needs to balance out several different perspectives in order to come up with the final study product, a reuse framework that will be used to create an RFP document. These considerations sit side by side with the community input that we just heard. So I'll share with you some of the other issues we are researching and exploring. First, let's consider county's ongoing needs for the site. The county will maintain ownership of the land and the buildings. The property will not be sold as part of the development. Also, only county-owned land is being considered for the study. Next, the county needs to be sure that whatever else happens on the campus, the mission of world-class healthcare for a world-class community comes first. We know the importance of making sure that our medical center is ready to respond to the community health needs of today and tomorrow. The county is committed to using General Hospital and West Campus to expand the supply of affordable housing at the same time it retains this incredible piece of LA history. Finally, the study will be a success if the subsequent RFP attracts best-in-class developers to partner with our county and community to deliver Supervisor Solis's vision of a healthy village. Apologies for that quick delay. We also know that there's a lot of challenging technical aspects to the project. The work will not be easy or inexpensive. General Hospital is 89 years old and needs major renovations to be ready for any future use. The building needs upgrades to electric, water, heating and air, elevators, the roof, as well as structural and environmental remediation to make the building safe. And because the hospital has historic status, there are many parts of the building that require preservation to ensure its legacy is maintained. All these factors add complexity and cost to any development plans and will be included as part of the feasibility study. When we talk about West Campus, we have other issues to consider. First, there are several structures and functions that need to be maintained to support the operations of the medical center. Things like a utility plant, a helipad, parking, and other needed land use. In addition, several pieces of West Campus have been developed or are scheduled for development as part of the Restorative Care Village. The Restorative Care Village will provide a range of supportive services for patients, which we will discuss during our panel discussion after this presentation. And now let's take a look at how we bring all of these elements together into the feasibility study. The study's purpose, as described by Supervisor Solis, is to deliver a reuse framework, a document that illustrates what's possible in developing General Hospital and West Campus. The reuse framework will balance out the ideas we've discussed: the community input and needs for housing, jobs, and services, the county's requirement for the site to support the medical center, and the last piece of the puzzle, the third blue circle at the bottom, is funding sources. We know that the development of General Hospital and West Campus to create a health campus and community center for the future will be very expensive. It will require funding from a lot of different sources, including the federal government, the state and the county, private funding, and revenue-generating sources. All of these elements will come together in the feasibility study to deliver a reuse framework that works for the community, the medical center, and the county. So this is where the study is today and what lies ahead. We are working on the reuse framework at the same time we are moving quickly to report back to the Board of Supervisors so that we can see the release of an RFP that will attract best-in-class developers who want to partner with us to realize the vision of General Hospital and West Campus. We will also continue to reach out to the community to make sure you are informed and are included in the conversation so that this development is responsive to community needs and reflects community values. To sum up what we've been talking about, the reuse framework, the document that we will deliver to the Board of Supervisors for their decision on next steps, will include many important ideas, recommendations, and potential uses for the site. These include rental housing at affordable rates for our community. This is Supervisor Solis's direction, and what we have heard from the community is most important. The framework will also include community services that are accessible to patients, residents, healthcare workers, and the entire community around the medical center. Some of these could be health services, mental health services, job training, senior programs, children's services, and local business incubator programs. We also look forward to including open and green spaces that can be enjoyed by everyone. Other ideas raised by community members include retail that serves the community, such as a grocery store, healthy food options, and expansion of local stores. We also know that workforce and jobs are important, and there will be inclusion of office space in the framework. Through community input, we've added the ideas of creative business spaces as well as business incubator spaces. And as you saw earlier, there were many wonderful suggestions from the community to ensure this new development celebrates and supports the culture and well-being of the community. The framework will include recommendations for arts and culture spaces, as well as commemorative spaces. As you can see, this is an incredible list of ideas and opportunities that were developed through the community engagement process. Recommendations from local residents, students, workers, and business people are being included in the framework so we can be sure this development is an extension and a complement to the communities surrounding the medical center. The supervisor's vision will be realized through multiple projects that build to an integrated campus and community. As we revisit the map of where all of this excellent work will happen, we reflect upon the history of the General Hospital and the opportunity of West Campus and General Hospital together in the future. But we know that no one project will meet all the uses and needs identified. Instead, the information gathered through the study and the other projects will be used to inform a whole campus development over time. The information collected and learned from the community, county, technical, and financial analysis data to determine and inform future uses of the site. With that, I'm delighted to turn the project over to Doug Cohen, who will tell us a little bit more about the RFP process and who will tell us a little bit more about the RFP process and the next steps for the project. Doug.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you very much. I've been asked to describe the request for proposal process and its purpose. The request for proposal, we refer to it as the RFP, is the phase of the project where the project developer is selected. It is a document that outlines the project requirements for any interested developer, and importantly, it sets the standard for the eligibility for these developers to propose. The RFP also describes the size of the project, its expected quality of design, its expected timelines, and the vast array of community input and technical and market analysis from the feasibility study. The purpose of the RFP is to provide the opportunity for eligible developers to propose creative and sustainable solutions to the challenges of the project. The developers who are interested in competing for the contract will review and will then prepare a response to the RFP. The developer's response will highlight their capacities and skill sets, and then assessed. Then those proposals will be assessed in comparison to other eligible developers who are also competing for the contract award. Finally, the developer who is evaluated to provide the greatest benefit to the General Hospital project is selected as the project developer. The entire process for selecting the developer should conclude with a selection of the project developer by late fall of this year. And I can hand it back to you, Heather. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Doug. So that was a quick overview of the RFP, which is, the next steps we're looking forward to upon the conclusion of the feasibility study. As we move forward, we're just about at the end of our presentation. So I want to encourage everyone to get your questions ready and raise a hand if you'd like to ask one. We've seen a lot of action in the chat and in the Q&A dialogue. We're very excited to hear from you. Please know we are responding to your questions. We're taking them offline, translating them, and then going to post responses. If by any chance we don't get to post a response to your question during today's session, we will be following up with everyone, posting responses to all received questions on our website, which is hicpla.org. And we'll also be sending out a list of posted questions and responses to the attendee list of this meeting. But we want to make sure that everyone's well aware of next steps so you can stay connected and stay informed. On the slide in front of you, you'll see some opportunities for you to participate in our ongoing conversation. We will host our next meeting to discuss the final feasibility study in April. We will also be hosting a site tour as part of the Wellness Center Anniversary Day on March 12th. So if you'd like to visit some of the spaces we've been talking about today, please do join us on Saturday, March 12th. We will also be posting regular updates to our social media and our website, so be sure to visit hicpla.org. And of course, as Rosa Soto mentioned, you're always welcome to join us at our HICP meetings. They are hosted the first Friday of every month via Zoom at 8:45 a.m. By attending those meetings, you'll stay up to date on this and many other important projects in our community. We'll take a quick look at our website so you can see what we're talking about. But this is where the information is posted, where you can sign up to our mailing list. You can see future upcoming events and opportunities for participation. There's also a button at the top of the screen where you can select the language of your choice, English or Spanish. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Alex so we can respond to your questions.
Thank you, Heather. And now for the most important part of our meeting, it's time for your questions and comments. As a reminder, to fully participate in our conversation, we request all attendees make sure that you've selected the language of your preference, English or Spanish, by clicking on a globe or interpretation icon in the toolbar down below. We want to hear from you, so please use the raise your hand function so we can call on you and to know to be called on. Or you can type your questions in the Q&A using the icon in the Zoom toolbar below. And as a reminder also, for those of you who are calling in by phone, please dial *9 to raise your hand, then followed, once you're called on, *6 to unmute yourself. And if anyone is having any technical difficulties, please let us know in the chat. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. It looks like we have 5 hands raised so far. We will start with Frank Villalobos. I will give you permission to speak, Frank.
Frank, please ask your question. Sounds like we may be having some audio troubles with Frank. Maybe we can move on to the next raised hand and circle back.
Yep. Frank, just let us know when you're able to get unmuted. And we will go with Maria Ruiz for now.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Oh, yes. Hi. My name is Maria Ruiz. I just want to mention that I'm so happy and proud to be part of this community, Boyle Heights. I'm from Boyle Heights, and I was at the December 9 session that there was a crowd that we were giving suggestions. We were talking about what we want to see, what is our vision for the general hospital. So my son was there, my son Eduardo, and he was writing his suggestions there. And right now I'm gonna tell him, I'm gonna let him know that his suggestions, his voice is hearing. The people can hear our suggestion, and now it's gonna be a reality. And I'm so happy of being part of that session and a couple of meetings that I attended. So this is great. This is great. And like somebody said before, when the meeting started, that this is for the community. So we, all of us, we are General Hospital. This is our General Hospital. So thank you so much for letting me speak. And I'm so happy and glad, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. And this is it takes a time to do something, to complete something and to achieve something. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Maria. Your words are very moving and very reassuring, and we really appreciate your and your family's participation. So thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Now we will turn over the mic to Almalk 1957. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Almalk. And I apologize, it is an email coming through.
We might need to say that in Spanish as well.
Buenas tardes, Almalk 1957. Ya le di permiso para hablar, si gusta hacer su pregunta.
No, no tenía ninguna pregunta, solo estaba escuchando. El problema fue que dejé puesta la mano sin querer. Gracias.
Ah, de nada. No, no hay problema.
Gracias. Gracias.
No hay problema, gracias. Okay, our next question is from Clara Solis. Go ahead, Clara.
Thank you. I was pleasantly surprised to see that you guys look like you're doing a great job. So often we come to these meetings and oh my God. But I'll just bring up the issue of mental health. There is a huge need for mental health services at all levels for children, for adults. But I'm going to focus in on services for homeless individuals who may have dual diagnosis of drug addiction and mental health illness. We're seeing a lot of homeless and there are a lot of drug addiction. Recently at a tiny homes meeting, we were hearing about problems that some of the residents were having with some individuals who might have mental health issues, who didn't qualify for 5150s, but who were disruptive. And maybe if there was other types of services out there in the community, it could be helpful for these residents. But there's a huge, huge need for drug addiction services as well. And thank you very much. I think you guys have been doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Clara. I want to mention that we're having a second panel after the presentation on the General Hospital that will include information about the Restorative Care Village. And during that presentation, we'll be talking about some of those services you've exactly identified that are coming online at our campus essentially in the next month or so. We have Alicia Ramos here who just joined us via camera, and she'll be telling us more about those projects. Do you want to briefly mention, Alicia?
Yeah, absolutely, Heather, and thank you, Clara, for the question. You mentioned some very important and very concerning topics, not just the mental health, but the homelessness situation. And we're going to segue into some of the other projects that are coming to completion right now. But I do want to mention that there are mental health services at the hospital currently, the LAC-USC hospital. But the project that I'm about to speak on is the Recuperative Care Center, and that is a campus within the LAC-USC campus now. The Restorative Care Village has two components to it. One is called the Recuperative Care Center, which focuses on the medical needs. A lot of our patients who exit medical services for the acute conditions like the hospital, they come back to a situation that's unstable. Either don't have housing or they don't have a care network so they can continue their successful recovery at home. And so the Recuperative Care Center aims to partially answer, that issue. The residential treatment programs we'll talk about also. And so we have 4 new buildings on this campus that are specifically aimed at assisting mental health conditions along with substance abuse too. So I'm going to speak about that a little bit later here. I would hope that we can have you hang on long enough to hear a little bit more about it. But I do want to respond by saying, yes, these are issues that we are looking at. And in fact, there are projects that are recently completing here specifically looking to help those conditions. Thank you so much for the question.
Our next raised hand is from Sonia at City Terrace. Let's go ahead and get you unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Sonia, and I'm from City Terrace, right nearby as well, in between Ramona Gardens is in between us. And I am a cleanup leader there and also part of Vision City Terrace. And I was fortunate to also attend an in-person. And I know the concerns that I had at the time were traffic and parking. But now my new concerns, ever since I've been doing cleanups with cleanup groups like Lincoln Heights, Boyle Heights, they have their own cleanup groups with volunteers. I noticed that our streets are not pedestrian friendly to even arrive to the center. So I'm just wondering if there would be any accessibility with better transportation for outside communities to come in where it's safe and clean and lighted up and inviting. Thank you.
Great question, Sonia. And we have an expert with us on our panel to answer. I'm going to ask Wakas Rehman if he can join us and provide some response to Sonia's question about transportation and access and safe access on the campus. Wakas, are you able to?
Yes.
You are.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather. I missed a part of the question. If you could repeat that. I know you wanted to get more information on the transportation connections.
Yes, absolutely. Sonia from City Terrace was sharing with us that she has, concerns about not just accessibility, but also the safety of public transportation. But just once again, making the campus more accessible, making the public transportation routes in and out more safe for people. Sonia, did I miss anything? Well, maybe you can start with that, Wakas.
No, absolutely. Great question. And thank you for your question, Sonia. I'll just speak a little about transit connectivity and some of the side efforts that tie into the proposed reimagining and adaptive reuse of the campus, including the old General Hospital. So the 2 initiatives we are looking at precisely that are moving on a parallel track with our feasibility study is one to look at another Metrolink station between LAC-USC that will be co-joined with the Silver Line station that's on the expressway along I-10. So between Cal State LA and Union Station, there will be another platform. Metrolink and Metro are working on a feasibility of that station and provided 2 concepts. So we'll be bringing that shortly and sharing with the group here for your input and feedback. The other larger proposal is in partnership with the City of Los Angeles. So those of you who may be familiar with the 710 North project, where LA Metro was the lead agency on that project, and that project was adopted as a no-go with the actual adoption of TSM TDM EIR alternative, which primarily means improvements to local arterials and roadways. So the funding city and county has set aside through LA Metro to look at a bus rapid transit along Valley Corridor that will connect roughly from Cal State LA and connect to Union Station or another large mobility hub in downtown LA. And it will go via Valley Boulevard, Marengo, Mission, and there will be dedicated stations with lighting and other amenities to better connect the proposed developments to the future transit multimodal options. And the amenities at those transit stations and the bus rapid transit and Metrolink services will be further enforced with safety and security elements that are being discussed, not just for these projects, but overall with transit services offered at Metro. So I'll stop there as there may be other questions, but we'll bring that back at further discussions to get your valuable input into both those initiatives.
Yep. Thanks so much, Wakas. The other element of Sonia's question was about pedestrian safety and pedestrian friendly, like just improving pedestrian access routes, pedestrian safety, and making the access to the campus more pedestrian friendly. Is there anything specific you'd like to add on that?
Yes, absolutely. So part of our study is precisely looking within the campus larger development improvements, whether there is additional parking, commercial, office, real estate, housing. All of that will be connected with pedestrian-friendly, well-lit pathways between the parking and various destinations. And that's part of the scope of our study. So any development plan that will be worked out with potential developers will include scope that speaks to open space and pedestrian and bike and other connections throughout the area of the study.
Great. Thank you so much, Wakas. Really wonderful information. And as you say, there's always so much more to come. I just want to reiterate that there is a lot of action in the chat, a lot of action in the Q&A. We are not, we're not neglecting your questions. We're just taking a minute to respond to them so that we can find the right member on our panel to respond, translate it into Spanish so everyone can access the information. We will be posting those responses in the chat, and then we'll also be publishing them on our website, as well as sending them out to attendees after the meeting. I think we have a few more raised hands though, and then we'll be wrapping up this portion of the presentation to move on to our panel conversation about other campus projects and some of the community responses to affordable housing, homelessness, and supportive housing needs. Who's next, Paola?
So next on our list is Beatrice.
Buenas tardes, agradezco mucho que hayan hecho, voy a hablar español, ¿está bien? Sí, mi nombre es Beatriz, no vivo en el área del este de Los Ángeles, pero he trabajado en esa área y agradezco mucho que hagan este tipo de eventos para conocer la situación y lo que los residentes necesitan. He observado que hay un gran número de personas sin hogar con ingresos fijos, especialmente personas de la tercera edad. Es inhumano ver a estas personas con esa falta de asequibilidad para poder tener un techo donde vivir y donde preparar sus alimentos. ¿Hay algún proyecto donde esté específicamente para este tipo de miembros de nuestra comunidad que pueda darle una solución? Y mi otra pregunta también es acerca de si hay algún proyecto para las personas que están sin hogar con problemas de salud mental crónicos. No soy una especialista en salud mental, pero también sabemos que una gran parte de las personas que experimentan la falta de vivienda están muy afectadas en su salud mental a consecuencia de no tener un lugar seguro donde vivir. ¿Hay algún proyecto también para ese? Bueno, creo que lo contestaron, pero yo me refiero a las personas con una salud mental más, más crónica. Gracias, esa es mi pregunta. Mis preguntas.
Thank you so much, Beatriz. To recap, you were speaking of your incredible compassion for homeless neighbors, for those living on fixed incomes, including seniors, and the lack of affordable housing that can support those individuals, and also those who suffer from severe mental illness and will need ongoing help and support. Well, I think that's a wonderful moment to transition into our next panel, because we have a speaker who will tell us more about the other housing projects and support services that are coming to the LAC-USC campus, as well as other projects in the community. I ask everyone with your hand raised to please hold tight. We will have another period for Q&A at the end of this panel, and we will make sure to come back to you first. With that, I'd like to transition into, as I mentioned, our community panel. We're really excited to share with you some of our county leaders and resident leaders on these new and exciting projects that are coming to fruition. With that, we're going to kick it off by asking Alicia Ramos back to talk about the projects that are happening at LAC-USC right now.
Hi, thank you, Heather, and appreciate everyone's time tonight. I'm really excited to take part in tonight because the last time we were able to meet, which was in person, we were telling you all about these projects as upcoming projects. So the exciting thing tonight is that I get to update you folks on many that have actually either reached completion or they are currently under construction. The reality is right in front of us. We can see it on campus. So if you could, the next slide, please, Heather.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to start by talking about the restorative care village, which I mentioned earlier in response to Clara's question. But I want to spend a little bit of time on this to do some detail about what this project brings to us. So the restorative care village is located at the corner of Zonal and Mission, the west side of the medical campus. And you'll notice if you drive off Mission, or particularly Zonal, you're going to see the buildings are up. We're basically nearing completion. In the next few weeks, we will be complete with this entire project. So it consists of the recuperative care center. That's one building. And as I mentioned earlier, the recuperative care center is aimed at assisting those patients that are exiting medical acute facilities. So if they've gone into LAC-USC Hospital, for instance, and they have completed their acute care, they're no longer in a critical or emergent situation, they would then be released. But for many of our community members, that's the start of another process, their recovery. And for many of us that have the ability to return home and have the care network of family and friends, that's a process that we sometimes take for granted. But for many of our community members that don't have the stability of housing, reliable housing, or a care network or transportation to do those follow-up visits, things like that can start to compromise and even eliminate their successful recovery. So the Recuperative Care Center looks to offer transitional housing. So we've got 96 transitional beds available. So if somebody exiting acute care is in that situation, we now have a transitional space for them to take temporary residency so they can get that care, they can have that reliable, comfortable housing situation, and also have a connection to counseling that will then look for a permanent supportive housing for them to then return to or enter into when they've made their recovery. The village also has what we call the residential treatment programs. These 4 buildings, and if you look at the image on the bottom of the screen, there are 3 buildings that look identical, lined up, and then there's one right across the way. Those 4 buildings are residential treatment programs, and they're headed up by the Department of Mental Health. So our partners at DMH are operating those, and that is geared at the mental health patients. Again, patients that are exiting acute care, crisis care, if you will, and able to be released, but don't have those stable conditions again. the RTPs, as we call them, residential treatment programs. Those would be able to take those particular types of patients in, and we have 64 beds now available on the campus that can serve this need. So within the RTP, you'll have housing, you'll have the supportive care, we have substance abuse programs as well, because we know that a lot of these conditions, it's called comorbidity, they happen hand in hand. When we have mental health, we sometimes have substance abuse, and so we address all of that. So we're very happy to have this project nearing its completion. We know that it is one of the answers to these larger questions, these larger issues facing our community, but this is going to be a fantastic resource. Next slide, Heather. Here's another picture of what we actually have built on site. So you can see that it reflects quite a bit of what we had in our rendered image. And we had a lot of community participation in this. So not only is it a fantastic resource to meet the needs of the critically ill that are coming out, facing the homelessness situation, it's also a reflection of the community giving their time to have a say in this, have an ownership, and also saying that the community is connected. We know that these people have needs and that they will eventually, hopefully, return to their respective communities. And this is just a fantastic way to show how connected the community outreach has been in this effort. Next slide, Heather. Thank you. Okay, so on this slide, I want to share a little bit about what's coming in the future. So to the left on your screen, you'll see a yellow block image. That's the area for the Restorative Care Village Phase 1, which I just talked about. So that's pretty much complete. And then we have 2 new phases coming in to the west. We've got the green block there, which is the future phase of what we anticipate to include a mental health wellness center, a mental health urgent care center, and then probably a 200-bed inpatient tower. So while the initial phase of RCV addresses some of our most immediate needs, the coming phases will also start to address some of the other needs that we know exist in the mental health situations that we're facing. So that phase will be on the footprint of the Women's and Children's Hospital that we demolished. So to the center of your screen, you're seeing what appears to be maybe not all that exciting, and it's actually very exciting. We paid our respects to the history of the Women's and Children's Hospital before we demolished it. We know that it has a significant place in history for a number of reasons, and that certainly didn't go unnoticed. But now that we have demolished it, it does clear the way for these other services to be developed. And then to the upper part of the screen, I'm sorry, one more, go back, Heather. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but to the upper screen, you'll see that blue triangle. And that's where we anticipate another phase for the Restorative Care Village, which will include permanent supportive housing. So what you'll see from this is there's a connection of services that address different stages of mental health need and homelessness need. Next slide, Heather. Okay, and then this is our child care center. Child care center is still very much under construction. So if you go up onto State Street, which could be difficult these days, I think we still do a lot of the COVID testing and vaccinations there. But up on State Street, we've got this construction going, and we are hopeful to complete the new child care center about May this year. And that'll give us the ability to bring the children and the daycare operation off campus, on campus, and we're hoping that creates convenience for everybody who uses the child care center. Next slide. Okay, thank you so much.
So I'm Ari Gutierrez Aramula, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the cultural aspects of the Restorative Care Village. If you notice on the image on the bottom, see the tree, and then there's papel picado. So that's a mural that's made of tile on the side of the building. And so there are four actual murals that have been developed by local artists. We had community engagement groups to talk about who we would like to have do the artwork, through the county's cultural center leaders. And so there was a number of artists that were selected. And so if you drive by, this is intended not just to be for the buildings, for the people who are using the buildings, but also for the community. And so I think it's a great way of infusing the culture and art of the Boyle Heights area around the medical center, to show what wellness, to show our community thriving in its own way, in these images. And so there's a lot of symbolism there as well. So, I invite you to come to that space and get to visit, see the art outside of the buildings. Now, Monica is going to share with us as well.
Yeah, I had to move because my computer was kind of off, so I'm sorry about that. But, one of the things that we heard about the hospital when we were starting our meetings, we heard about, several different things and what people wanted to see. And, as we look forward, we also want to reflect on the past and the legacy of the campus and the buildings where we experienced so many important life events. Places like that have huge emotional roles for our lives. Like for me, the Women's Children's Hospital, I was born there. All of my siblings were born there. I had my son there, and I remember the care that was given to me because I was young, and I'll never forget that. We talk about the things that happened, the tragedies that happened where women were where they had forced sterilizations. And, later on in life, I found that my godmother was one of the victims. And again, that brings us back to those things. And one of the things that the community wanted to see, and they wanted to honor those that were affected. And, we had planned to have this big, beautiful ceremony, but because of COVID, we couldn't do that. But we still felt that it was necessary to honor the space before it came down. And, this is why it's really important for us to participate in these things, because we want to ensure that the community voice is heard. We want to make sure that the needs, for somebody that's a victim, I cannot imagine not having my children. And for that to be taken is something very emotional. I think about it and I want to cry, but I also remember the beautiful things like the care that I got at the hospital when I had my children. And the other thing that, when I started doing these, like I was born at the time when this was happening, and, I could have not been born, or, the rest of my siblings could have not been born. So making sure that we are reflective and that we are part of the healing process and that people can heal from this is really important. And, again, Supervisor Solis is somebody that hears us. And I want everybody to understand that if you participate in these meetings that we have, not just this one, but the HICP meetings and the community meetings, hopefully we'll be able to have those in person, your voice will be heard. So it's important that the community is involved. I mean, like I said, we talk about homelessness a lot. That's what I do. My job is I work with people that are experiencing homelessness in the community, and I help get them housing. And I've seen my neighbors, and I've seen, when we're accepting and want to really help people, how the community can move to support just any idea that the community really wants. So again, I will ask you again to participate, and, nothing, obviously we can't get everything we want, but at the same time, we can ask and advocate for. So again, thank you everybody for participating. And, I know that this was something that was huge for a lot of people at the different meetings about honoring those that, were victims, but know that the hospital's doing, besides the ceremony that we had, there's going to be art to honor that. So please remember that. And again, so many things have happened and have come out from these meetings. And again, it's the ideas from the community, and people are listening. Like the lady said before, you know, her son, his ideas we're listening to, and that's what is important to me. And I think to everybody that is part of this committee, right? So thank you again.
Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Alicia. You know, it's just so exciting to hear about what's happening on our campus. And as you mentioned, Monica, that it's responsive, that it's inclusive of community perspectives and voices. We have two more presenters quickly to outline for us some of the upcoming investments and developments that are being positioned to help take care and address of some of these crises. With that, I'll let Matt Lusk tell us a little bit more about LACTA's supportive and affordable housing projects.
Thanks, Heather. I'd like to take just a few minutes to discuss affordable housing development, both in the county as a whole and in the context of the larger general hospital project. So starting off, I'd like to reiterate the benefits of affordable housing, some of which are more evident than others. So such as providing community stability, bringing construction and other jobs to communities, and of course, providing increased housing options for a range of income levels. There are other affordable housing benefits that may not be as evident, such as increased health outcomes, bringing gains in quality of life, and addressing inequality. And the reason the county provides funding and other resources for affordable housing is because the private market typically doesn't build such units without a public subsidy. So the county and other government agencies assist in this effort. So next slide, please. So the county's approach to affordable housing is threefold. The county looks to produce more of this type of housing so it's not so scarce and more people can benefit. The county also looks to preserve existing housing that is either naturally affordable or it's affordable because of some public assistance. In these cases, the term of affordability can eventually expire, so we want to stop that from happening. And lastly, the county works to protect and provide assistance to current tenants. So this slide, this map shows some of the projects that have been funded by the county, Metro, and the city of Los Angeles in recent years in the vicinity of General Hospital. These projects provide around 5,700 units of affordable housing, more than half of which are reserved or set aside for homeless or other special needs households. And these projects also provide a variety of on-site supportive services for all the residents that live there, and they are affordable to a very wide range of household incomes. And lastly, you've heard about the restorative care village and the different phases. The county is currently working to select a developer to provide up to 300 units of affordable and homeless housing at the site in blue, marked RCV future phases. And up to 120 of these units will be reserved for families and individuals who are living with a mental illness. This is just one of the projects in the area, and we hope to have a development partner selected within the coming months. And then that development partner will reach out to the community for design ideas and to further cement the design of the project in this site. So now I'll turn the presentation over to Liz Benishai from the CEO's Homeless Initiative.
Great, thank you so much, Matt. My name is Liz Benishai and I am with the LA County Homeless Initiative. I'm just going to give a brief overview this evening of what our office does, and I'll be happy to answer your questions at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So the Homeless Initiative, or the HI as we call it, is the central coordinating body for all of the county's work related to homelessness. The Board of Supervisors created the HI in 2016 to develop and implement a set of strategies to prevent and combat homelessness. And we coordinate across the county with county departments and agencies to implement these strategies. Next slide, please. In order to implement the strategies that the board approved, we needed a ongoing funding source, and we were able to generate this funding through Measure H, which you might be familiar with. So in March of 2017, the citizens of LA County approved a ballot measure dedicating funding to homelessness and homeless services for 10 years. And Measure H generates about $355 million each year. We're almost halfway through those 10 years, and the tax is a 1/4 cent tax that is a sales tax. Next slide, please. So to give you a sense of where these funds are going, the Homeless Initiative had a budget of $527 million for the current fiscal year. So that includes both the Measure H funds that I mentioned, as well as other funding sources from the state and federal government. We use this funding in part for interim housing, which is shelter or short-term housing for people experiencing homelessness, $150 million to provide 5,441 beds. Funding also goes to permanent supportive housing, which is a long-term rental subsidy combined with supportive services. Rapid rehousing is a time-limited subsidy for folks who need a rental subsidy for a shorter period of time until they can get back on their feet. That's another bucket of funding. Measure H and other homeless initiative funds also go to outreach. Those are the teams you see out in your communities working with folks who are experiencing homelessness on the streets. And then $23 million of the budget went to, or is going to, prevention, trying to prevent folks who are at risk of becoming homeless from falling into homelessness. Next slide. So despite the fact that we continue to experience a homelessness crisis in LA County, as you all know, we have achieved significant gains with the Homeless Initiative's efforts with all of our partners across the county, including community organizations in your community. We have placed, the whole system has placed nearly 80,000 people into permanent housing since Measure H first was implemented in July 2017. Over 100,000 people have been placed into interim housing, and Measure H accounts for nearly half or a little over half of these placements. Next slide, please. That's the presentation. I'm happy to answer your questions about the Homeless Initiative and Measure H. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Matt, Alicia, Liz. We're really thrilled to have all of you here with us today. And most importantly, of course, we're thrilled to have our community members with us. We had almost 150 attendees at an earlier point in the meeting. As we know, we are past time now. However, I'm really in gratitude to our panelists for sticking with us. I'm going to ask that we have the panelists come back on camera with me for just a minute, and we'll see if we can take a few more questions. We certainly understand that we are past time, so if you must leave us, we understand that, but if you have a question you'd like to ask, now is your time. Please feel free to raise your hand. If you are on the phone, you may dial *9 to raise your hand. And we'd love to hear our questions. We're going to go back to our earlier list of questions. I think we have 4 questions now with raised hands. Paula, if you could moderate that for us. Thank you.
Yeah. Our first
just as a side, Paula, please. Thank you. Please know that we're answering your questions as quickly as possible, everyone. And just know that we have a whole team in the back end translating and going to post all of your questions to our website. So please, they will be answered. Thank you very much for your patience. Paula?
Yep. Our first participant is E161934. That's E161934.
Please go ahead with your question. We see you on our list as E161934. You just have been unmuted.
Okay, looks like that participant lowered his hand, or his or her hand. Next on our list is M. Pai Pan.
Would you like to go ahead with your question?
Your mic is muted.
You can go ahead and unmute yourself, Pai Pan.
I would like to ask to see that the building that next to General Hospital on April, I think it's March 12. They're gonna have a tour and it open to public or?
Yes, yes, absolutely. So on March 12th, the Wellness Center, which is located in the first floor of General Hospital, will be hosting an anniversary celebration. The public is invited to attend. We will also be hosting some visits of the sites that have been discussed at today's presentation. So please feel free to join us. Go to the website hicpla.org and we'll have more information about the Anniversary Day celebration and the site tour.
Thank you.
Next question.
Next question is from Sabi. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Sabi.
Mute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi. This is the first time I'm here, and thank you for the invitation. I personally I am one of the people that had a job, and I worked for several years in that job site. Now I'm injured, and it's hard for me to find a job. You think maybe we could do something like for the handicapped people to train and find like people like me with disabilities and to find another job to. I have depression. I think it's because of the same reason that I don't have a job and nobody wants to hire me. Nobody wants to accommodate a disability person. So I would like to see something like that. And I'm willing to put in my time if you guys could help me out with that.
Thank you, Sabi, for that question. We do have some opportunities and pipeline for workforce development with these different projects. I think, Kelly, would you like to respond to this question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sabi, for your question. We will relay that desire. In fact, I think we have some staff from the LA County Workforce Development, Aging and Community Services Department on the call, but we'll relay your desire to them and see if they can help find some specific training opportunities for you.
Yeah, Kelly, I think that's a great idea. Well, let's go ahead and take Sabi's call down and her information, and we'll relay that internally.
Great. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, Sabi. We'll be back in touch. Our next question, please.
Our next question is from Maria Arellano. Go ahead, Maria.
Sí, mi pregunta es, yo sé que están hablando acerca de la accesibilidad para este predio. Quería saber, ¿va a haber accesibilidad para personas con discapacidad? Personas que usan silla de ruedas, que usan andador, muletas. El predio tiene un elevador, ¿cierto? Pero es un solo elevador. Entonces, la accesibilidad para personas con discapacidad que tienen problemas de movilidad y utilizan equipo de movilidad, sería importante hacer este tipo de acomodaciones, principalmente para personas con discapacidad, personas de la tercera edad también, que necesitan esta accesibilidad con acomodaciones y con todo lo necesario, rampas, espacio disponible. Me encanta saber que ustedes están tomando en consideración el acceso a través de rutas de metro, alumbrado público también es importante porque también es un problema del área. Entonces, para mí sería importante, yo vivo en el área, vivo como a 5 minutos de aquí del Hospital General, y principalmente porque mi hija y yo defendemos, apoyamos mucho y nos empadronamos mucho con esta comunidad porque mi hija pertenece a esa comunidad. Entonces, para mí sería muy importante considerar todos estos puntos de accesibilidad, principalmente para personas que tienen equipo de movilidad. Muchas gracias.
Good evening, Maria. Thank you for your question. I'll speak slowly since I believe my answer will be translated. This is Kelly Quinn from LA County CEO. So Maria, we will, the project will have to have accessible features, ramps were needed, elevators were needed. It's a challenging campus. We're aware of that. It's very hilly. It's not easy to get up to General Hospital. So part of the reuse framework includes the cost to make those improvements so that the facility can be both general hospital and whatever is developed on West Campus can be accessible to people with physical disabilities.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, and I also want to make mention that there is literally at this moment an ongoing elevator installation project in the heart of the LAC-USC Medical Center that is helping to improve accessibility. But we certainly hear you, Maria, and we understand that there are challenges with accessibility on the campus. Next question, please.
Our next question comes from Clara Solis. Go ahead, Clara.
Yes, I want to ask, why is affordable housing not built in high resource areas? When you were showing that map, I noticed in Silver Lake there was there was housing being built in along the border of Silver Lake, but none in Silver Lake. And in unincorporated East Los Angeles, which is highly dense already, it's like the 30th dense community in the county out of 265 communities. And if you take into account that they have a lot of cemeteries and 4 freeways running through it, it's probably even more dense. And people experience a lot of traffic, yet housing projects are being put there, like the National Core Project on 3rd and Dangler, right by the 710 freeway and the SR 60 freeway. And we tested the soil and found contamination in the soil. And you're putting these housing projects in these communities that already have a lot of density, they have pollution, they have too much traffic, and these other communities that have high resources, which could help, you know, people who are lower income, don't have any. Thank you.
So,
thank you, Clara. Matt, would you like to go ahead? Thank you.
Sure, and that's a very good point. And probably around 3 years ago, the county started to concentrate more on high resource areas, and we, in our funding applications and our rounds, we have started to add those areas in as priority areas. So with the development cycle being 2 to 3 years from when the funding is allocated, we will start to see more projects in high resource areas as we focus more on those type of projects. So that is a good point that you made.
Yes, thank you so much, thank you so much, Clara, for your question. So we are, as we know, running quite late on our originally scheduled time. And so I think we're going to wrap it up right about now. We have one more raised hand, so we'll ask Beatrice to ask her question in one moment. But before we move to that final question, I want to thank all of our panelists, thank all of our attendees. You have created an incredible space for conversation and dialogue, and we're so grateful to you for bringing these thoughtful ideas, suggestions, and questions to us. As mentioned, all the materials from this meeting, including the presentation and a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, will be available on our website sometime next week after we edit the video together. We will also be posting a transcript of the questions and responses there, and we will be sending out an email to everyone on our distribution list. So please visit the website, make sure you're on the mailing list, and you will receive updates to all of your questions as well as a link to these materials. With that, I'm going to ask Beatrice to ask our final question of the evening.
Muchísimas gracias. Bueno, pues mi pregunta tal vez sea un poco polémica, pero no podemos negar que tenemos a casi 3 millones de personas sin documentos en el condado de Los Ángeles, y me gustaría saber cómo vamos a poder o cómo van a poder asegurar que esta comunidad tan vulnerable no sea excluida de los programas y servicios que van a estar para la comunidad.
Matt. or Rosa.
Matt, you want to start and then I continue?
Oh, sure. So as part of the affordable housing efforts, some of the units that we have coming online are assisted by federal dollars, and they do have certain, I guess, residency requirements, while other units in the same buildings do not. So we are not excluding undocumented individuals and families from the projects that we're serving, although the federal subsidies do have some requirements associated with that. So it will be a mix in the projects that are being developed.
I just wanted to add that part of the reason why the work we're doing through this effort is to go deep into communities and to ensure we have translation, equitable time for issues, is because we want every one of our residents in our communities to be seen and heard. And so we thank you for your comments, and we'll continue to uplift the needs of our large immigrant population to ensure that we have the resources needed to move forward. Y voy a decir en español, gracias por sus comentarios y por la fuerza que tiene, la valentía de hablar y de ser escuchada. Y estamos trabajando para asegurar equilibribilidad en los recursos que hay disponibles para nuestra comunidad.
All right, thank you so much, everyone. I'm so grateful for everyone's comments and questions today. Again, you've made it a rich dialogue. Thank you, Liz. Thank you, Matt, for closing us out. As we leave the meeting today, I hope you all have a better sense of the opportunity, the possibility, and the ways to be engaged as we reconsider what the LAC USC Medical Center campus can mean to our community, to our residents, to our workforce, to the health system, and to the larger network of care that LAC USC provides. We want to invite you again to join us at our next Community at Large meeting, which will be hosted in April. Please visit the website today, hicpla.org, to make sure you're on the mailing list. As we mentioned, we will be hosting our Wellness Center Anniversary Day on Saturday, March 12th. There'll be a site visit so you can actually see some of these spaces that we're talking about and envision for yourself what a future campus that includes mixed-use spaces, green spaces, community serving spaces, housing, and other services would look like. And of course, we want to invite you to learn about not just this project, but others that impact the community by attending our monthly Health Innovation Community Partnership meetings hosted the first Friday of every month. They are open to the public. We have simultaneous translation, and we're delighted to receive comments and questions at those meetings as well. We know we weren't able to answer everyone's question in the course of this program. Again, we will post the questions and answers to the website, and we will email them out to everyone who participated today. With that, I'll conclude our meeting and thank everyone so much for the wonderful presentation. If you have additional comments or questions, my wonderful co-host this evening, Alex Villalobos, is available. Please take down his email and reach out if you have any additional questions at this time. With that, thank you and have a wonderful evening.